So on to the first speaker. The first speaker is going to be Athena Lent. And so for those of you who don't know Athena, she runs a website and a YouTube channel called Money Smart Latina. And I wrote down a few things just to make sure that I wouldn't forget anything. So Athena was homeless in high school. She did not have a stable home and moved around a lot between relatives and friends, and it was considered homeless. And despite that, she still went on to complete 2 college degrees and has an amazing job with Jobs for Arizona's graduates as a program manager. And it's great work that she does, and she can tell you a little bit more about that in the introduction. And so she's, what she's done with Money Smart Latina as well is she's a leading voice for the Latina community in terms of personal finance. And I'd love to bring her up.
So hi, my name is Athena. I think I know all of you, maybe. I think I'm kind of unfamiliar with you 3, but I'll go moneysmartlatina.com, and it is where Latinas and finance meet. And so my market is Latinas, and I'll tell you why in a minute. I am from Peoria, Arizona, so I'm actually from the west side of Phoenix. And I grew up there, and like Harlan had mentioned, I was homeless. My mom died when I was a freshman in high school. And so basically that led to kind of just me bouncing around from house to house. Like so many other kids and people, I don't know who my real dad is. My mom never told me, and I haven't really had a desire to find him. So I have a stepdad, and he is the one I call dad. And he did enable me and help me graduate high school, so he will always be my father. But at the time we weren't talking, and him and my mom were in the middle of actually getting a divorce. So I went through family member to family member, and whoever got my social security check. So they kind of just bounced me around and shared me for 4 years. So that was fun. But I did go on to get several college degrees. I have a minor in LGBT studies. I have a dual bachelor's in criminology and criminal justice. I also have a certificate in counterterrorism. I got to go to Israel for the summer and go study terrorists because I thought that would be cool. So I did that, and then now I am a program manager for a nonprofit, Jobs for Arizona's graduates, and I was a teacher for several years, and now I oversee a bunch of teachers. I miss teaching. It was a lot funner. No offense, teachers, sorry. All my friends are teachers, so they know how I feel about them now. Anyways, so I started Money Smart Latina when I was in the classroom because all my 8th grade students thought everybody bought food with food stamps. And so they couldn't understand why I didn't buy food with food stamps, and I had to explain to them I made too much money. And they're like, oh, we know why you don't get food stamps, you don't have a baby. You're supposed to have a baby, and then you can get the food stamps, and then you can get WIC, and you can get all this assistance. And it isn't anything saying their parents are abusing the system, or all those stereotypes that go with working with people with a low socioeconomic status. It's that's what your friends do, that's what your relatives do, that's what your family does. You don't know any different, right? So you don't know. And that's kind of the mentality that keeps a lot of people stuck in. It's not just that they want to be poor and they want to be broke, it's that they don't have the education to break that cycle and to get out of it. So today I want to talk about financial resiliency and communities that are underserved. And so I decided to go back to school, yay, and become a nationally certified trauma specialist. So I'm actually going to be a train-the-trainer, and I will be able to actually certify people in trauma-informed care. And so why I decided to do that was mainly because a lot of my students, they don't comprehend a lot of stuff, and I was interested in why. And it's because a lot of people that aren't just in a lower socioeconomic class, it's people across the board that they're finding have some sort of trauma. And so when you have trauma at a young enough age, your brain will develop differently and it will be rerouted. And so when you develop trauma, you cannot comprehend things like everybody else. And so they're finding that a lot more people have trauma. And it's not just because they had some major life event like I did when I was 14, 15. It's because a lot of people who have stunted growth in their brain, it's from mycostressors. So when you get stressed out, you go into a fight or flight reflex, right? It's like you don't know what you really want to do. You're either going to fight it or you're going to fly. So you're hyped up and you're in this constant state of arousal, because that's what it is to be in a fight and flight response. You're in a constant state of arousal. That's how your body responds to stress, okay? So you respond to stress that way, and then you calm back down. So you're in the hyper aroused state, and then you calm down. But if you are continuously stressed out, even with little things that might not seem like a big thing, the more time you spend aroused, the more time it's going to take you to calm down. So people who are constantly aroused are not going to be able to comprehend a lot of things, and they're not going to be able to maintain information. So I just thought it'd be really interesting to kind of talk about one of the principles of trauma-informed care. There's actually 6, but today I'm going to very quickly talk about choice. You don't live here. What are you doing here? Sorry, you're going to edit that part out. Hi, Jacob. I'm like, wait, you don't live here. What's going on? Sorry. Anyways, so we're going to talk about empowerment and choice. And why I want to talk about this is because people who want to feel empowered, this is kind of like a rough topic to talk about, because it's personal finance bloggers and anybody in general, like, we consistently judge people, right? Because they're not making good financial choices, right? So you're stupid because you're not living off beans and rice or whatever crazy thing people assume that personal finance bloggers do. I don't do that. But anyways, so you assume because people aren't living your lifestyle that this is why they're not going to be as financially successful as you or other people down the road, right? Like other bloggers. And when you're consistently talking crap to people, you're actually discouraging them from doing things that are positive with their life. So that's why a lot of people are turned off by personal finance in general, because a lot of it sounds very critical and sounds like they're constantly being criticized, and you're your own worst critic, right? So if you're consistently talking crap to yourself, why are you going to want to go and read a website that somebody's calling you stupid because you're living paycheck to paycheck? And then a lot of it too is, they don't know how to break the cycle, or they don't know how to get out or make better financial decisions. And I'm not saying anybody in this room does it, but there's a lot of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and figure it out. But if people really could figure it out, they probably wouldn't be reading your blog or asking for help anyways. So I just wanted to go over 8 quick tips for empowerment, because I know I'm on a timeline. First tip is, how do you avoid complex terminology? So don't jump straight into ETFs if you don't even know, if your audience doesn't know what investing is, right? Grant Savitar, I think is how you say his last name, from Millennial Money. He actually came and did a presentation to 40 of my kids who live below poverty line. And so he talked to them about investing, but he didn't jump into ETFs because he knew his audience. So he started talking to them about ways you can make money just by having your money in an account. So that's kind of something to keep in mind. And if you don't know how your audience talks or where their language or their level is, go back and read your comments and read the people who follow you on social media. That is going to give you really great insight into the vocabulary you should be using. Choose positive words when creating for your audience. Again, you don't want to be too critical or criticize them. Don't go on about their past financial mistakes. They already have enough of that anyways. And like I mentioned earlier, they're their own worst critic. And you're going to want to go ahead and create statements that give choice. You don't want to leave a lot of stuff that's open-ended, because open-ended questions actually overwhelm people. And it seems like you're giving them options, but you're truly not. So you kind of want to go in with an open mind, but you also kind of want to give them something. So it's not like, what do you want to do today? It's more, would you rather talk about having a checking account, or would you rather talk about having a savings account? Either way, you're going to have a positive result, and they get to still have a choice in what they're going to talk about and what they're going to do. And the last thing I want to say is, 2 last things. Don't assume that people are stuck. Nobody is ever stuck. And I know a lot of people will have a victim mentality and they'll be like, oh, this is awful, I'm always gonna be here. I kind of get that way sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. But you just have to remind yourself and remind them that nobody is ever truly stuck, right? You can have a crappy life or you can do whatever you want, but your demographics don't define what you're going to do or your current situation. It's not gonna define you forever. You're not stuck. And then validate people's concerns and fears. So a lot of people that are low socioeconomic class, they're not going to want to put their money in a bank. Historically, banks they don't trust banks. Historically, they have not had good bank options. So don't assume that's what they're going to do. So if they tell you, I'm scared to put my money in a bank, I've kept it under my bed, there's a reason for that. And instead of using negative talk with that and being like, oh my God, that's so stupid, why would you not keep your money in a bank? Go, you know what, I truly understand why you wouldn't want to do that. And if you don't understand, ask. Say, why are you concerned about that? Why, I hear you're scared. Why are you scared? Tell me about that a little bit. Because sometimes they just want to go over their fear. They know it's irrational, but they need to hear it out loud and actually have a conversation about it in order to feel better and be like, oh, okay. Like me with my cat. I'm always scared something's going to happen. And then I talk about it and I'm like, oh, okay, he's really fine. And you can ask people in this room because they've heard about it a lot lately. Thank you so much for letting me come and talk to you guys. Does anybody have any questions for me? No? All right.
All I'm saying is that was all awesome, and it sounds like great marriage advice as well.
Well, I'm happy to give you some tips. Does anybody else have any questions, comments?
How long did it take for you to kind of come out of that homeless state of mind? Or did you even get into a homeless state of mind?
I didn't know I was homeless. I had no idea I was homeless until I started working for the Boys and Girls Clubs in Vegas. And we had, there's Homeless Youth Connect, and they have chapters all over states. And so Homeless Youth Connect came to talk to my kids, my kids at the Boys and Girls Club and my teens, and they're like, yeah, homelessness is if you don't live at home and you're couch surfing. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, if you're staying with your friends. I'm like, what? And legit, and I can laugh about it now, but it was so ridiculous. When I was a junior in high school, I had a box and a trash bag and my backpack. And that's legit what I house hopped in. And so I'm like, oh yeah, and I laugh. And my kids are like, miss, my kids now, they're like, what did you do about laundry? And what did you do about food? And I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that kind of stuff.
And whether it be someone our own age or a child, up to 18, let's say.
Yeah.
Who might be showing signs of homelessness or showing signs of living in poverty and need help but won't say anything.
Okay, so one thing is that I've noticed is a lot of people who are homeless or in poverty, they'll come to school all the time with the same clothes. So that's kind of a red flag. I've noticed a lot of kids who are in poverty, or they're not even homeless, they're just in poverty. The only meals they're going to get at school, they don't get meals at home. So there's a lot of food hoarding. You'll notice they'll keep items from their school lunches and then they'll put it in their backpack. And some of them, it's not even for them, it's for their parents. So what else would you guys say? You guys are still in the classroom. I haven't been in a hot minute. Is there anything that stands out to you guys? You have kids that are a lot of kids too, they're over aggressive, and it's not really just them being defiant, it's really them having trauma, and they can't comprehend sitting still, or they can't comprehend a lot of situations like that. And then another thing is absence. A lot of the kids are absent because they have to stay at home and watch their siblings because their parents can't afford childcare. And tardies is another big thing. Did you guys think of anything? Yeah.
I'd say quick to react, an extreme reaction. Where they went from a 0 to a 10, where someone else would have gone from a 0 to a 5.
Yeah.
Just that quick
Can you repeat
reaction.
what you said so it's on the camera? So the microphone. Can you just repeat it?
Thank you.
Oh, she said,
Quick to react.
Quick to react, like that,
Quick to react. So instead of going from a 0 to a 10, where someone else that wouldn't have poverty or trauma would go from a 0 to a 5 quickly. Their reactions are a little on the extreme side, both in anger, sadness, happiness. They're just fast to react.
If there are like, okay, so we're talking
I'm
about
like, where do I
classroom
stand?
and like educational-based settings.
Mm-hmm.
What about like all of us as bloggers? What can we do as people who are typically working from home and aren't in a classroom or aren't in a social situation where we experience youth like that? Should we be volunteering more to like expose ourselves to these kinds of things, or should we be focusing on like how we can start providing our own kind of like outreach to a community or connecting with foundations like Plutus Foundation to find ways to connect with these kinds of individuals?
I would say just kind of think about like how close you want to get, because it is really hard working with kids in trauma. Like I would never say it's easy. There's a reason I think it's 60 or 70% of teachers leave the classroom after the first year. Like teachers do not stay teaching. It's a very high turnover rate, and some of them will go for a year and then they'll go to a different school for a year and they'll realize teaching is not for them, and then you have people that just get the hell out of Dodge and they know they don't want to be in the classroom. So if you do want to work with youth, great. If you want to work with youth with trauma, you have to be very careful, because if a kid who's in PTSD or has behavior issues, if they open up to you, they're going to want to keep a relationship with you. So like I have a kid that I had in 7th and 8th grade, and I just helped her get out of an abusive relationship. She's a senior in high school now, but she couldn't tell her new JAG coordinator because she didn't trust her, but she trusted me. So she told me. So if you want to have a relationship, like a lifelong relationship with a kid, then I would volunteer with them. But if you're not cool with that, maybe then volunteering with like financial, like giving financial assistance or doing fundraising or spreading the word about foundations like Plutus or JAG or Tomorrow We Vote, that kind of thing. Maybe getting involved with your local church if that's more your speed. That's kind of, I'd be very careful. Like it's not, like if you want to just work with kids and like volunteer or go to the library or go to the Boys and Girls Club, be very careful when you work with youth like in trauma and lower socioeconomic areas.
Athena, can I add on that?
Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on.
Yeah, definitely, because it is such deep work. Donating, really finding an organization that you could fundraise for within like your network with your groups, and really fundraise so that this way the money can go to those experts that they then can do that direct service. So if you want to see about finding research and organization that does direct service versus something maybe on a national scale that you know can impact your community or the group of children that you want impacted directly, I would suggest really seeing about helping them with raising money.
So, sorry, I'm like dragging this on her.
Do you need her to?
I work with youth for a really long time, and I have like 10 years of nonprofit organization experience with youth specifically. I have a kid, we need help. Like, I think that's more of like, I'm just wondering, like, is that something that is wise, or is there a different organization that you would specifically say, like,
two in your area, and that actually leads me into my next ones. I know we got to get going. I actually have a folder somewhere with a ton of local resources that I've put together for people that live in Phoenix, and a lot of it is stuff like there's Safe Haven, there is Safe Place, there's UMOM, Tumbleweed No More, but then you have organizations like JAG, and then there's a few other ones that actually work with youth in circumstances like that are more mobile than us.
We'll make sure that everybody gets one before they
Yeah.
And real quick, just for legitimacy purposes, could you just brag on yourself for 1 second about being featured in money.com?
Oh.
In front of the camera, please.
come back to your spot?
I was on money.com.
With enthusiasm.
You did it!
I was on money.com. Yeah.
Why were you on money.com?
Because I was homeless and now I make money and I talk to people about trauma.
Because you're amazing, that's why.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you.